We've all seen the headlines about startups shutting down. But what if all that failure wasn't just an ending? What if it was actually a new beginning? In this explainer, we're going to decode the critical lessons from a massive wave of startup collapses to figure out the new rules for building a successful company today. So let's just start with a number, a huge number. Between 2023 and 2025, almost 40,000 startups folded. And look, that's not just a statistic. That's a shockwave that rippled through the entire ecosystem and forced everyone to ask some really tough questions about what growth even means. And that really brings us to the big question, right? Was this whole thing a complete catastrophe, or was it a painful but maybe necessary reset? We're going to explore this idea that this mass extinction event was actually the fire that forged a stronger, smarter, and way more resilient generation of founders. There's a great name for this period: enforced maturity. I think that nails it. It's this idea that the market itself just forced startups to grow up, to stop chasing those vanity metrics, user growth at any cost, and start building real, sustainable businesses with a clear return on investment baked in from day one. So what caused this enforced maturity? Let's get into it. We need to break down the specific reasons so many of these companies went under, because understanding the why is the only way to avoid the same mistakes. And here's the thing. Failure wasn't just one size fits all. In the D2C space, you had companies that took on massive debt and just buckled when the money got tight. For social media apps, some just got lost in the noise and became irrelevant. Quick commerce, those 10-minute delivery services, turns out the economics were just completely unsustainable. And in edtech, a total breakdown in governance just destroyed any trust investors had. Different sectors, different fatal flaws, but they all point to much deeper problems. But here's the silver lining. From all that wreckage, we get the most valuable part of this whole story: the lessons. You could almost think of this period as a collective due diligence for the entire startup world, teaching some hard but absolutely essential rules for the future. And these new rules really boil down to 3 huge lessons. First, you have to master your unit economics. That's a direct response to those failed quick commerce models. Second, you have to prioritize governance from the get-go, a lesson the edtech sector learned the hard way. And third, maybe the most important of all, you have to absolutely nail your product market fit. Let's dig into each of these. Okay, first step, and this is non-negotiable. You've got to master your unit economics. And it's actually shockingly simple. Your customer acquisition cost, or CAC, is what you spend to get one new customer. Your lifetime value, or LTV, is how much money you expect to make from that customer over time. And the rule is unbreakable. Your LTV must be greater than your CAC. If it's not, you don't have a business. You have a hobby that burns cash. The leaking bucket analogy is just perfect for this. I mean, think about it. If you're spending more to get a customer than you'll ever make from them, you're just pouring money into a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. No amount of venture capital can patch a fundamental flaw like that. It just won't work. The second major lesson was all about governance. Before 2023, things like clean accounting and proper oversight, that was often seen as a problem for later, something you'd figure out when you were raising a big Series C round. Well, not anymore. Today, it is a day one seed round necessity. Sloppy books are one of the fastest ways to get a no from investors. But this is probably the most sobering lesson of them all. After digging through all the data, why did the single largest group of startups fail? A staggering 42% failed for one simple reason. There was no real market need for what they built. They created a solution looking for a problem. And the lesson here is so crucial. Founders have to fall in love with their customer's problem, not their own clever solution. If you are obsessed with solving a real-world pain point for people, you will build something they actually want and probably will pay for. But if you just fall in love with your own cool tech, you risk building something for an audience of one, yourself. Now, all this failure led to something really remarkable happening. The stigma around it started to fade, and instead, failure started to be seen as a valuable and very expensive form of education. We've seen a major shift in mindset here. Before this reset, failing was often seen as the end of your career. It was a mark of shame. Now it's viewed as scar tissue. It's proof that you've been in the trenches, you've fought the battles, and you've learned lessons that you just can't get from a textbook. It's real-world, hard-won experience.
And here is the proof in the pudding. In 2025 and 2026 alone, over 1,700 second-time founders jumped back into the ring to start new companies. This number is so powerful because it shows that failure is no longer an endpoint. It's a launchpad for the next, and hopefully much smarter, attempt.
The ecosystem itself started to evolve to support all this. We're seeing a new focus on hard tech, people tackling really tough, important problems in climate, deep tech, and space. There's even a proposed national startup failure registry to help share these lessons publicly. And faster bankruptcy processes mean that capital isn't tied up for years. It can get redeployed more quickly. The whole system is being rebuilt for learning and bouncing back. And all of this leads us to the new model for success in this post-reset world. It's a really simple but powerful idea: sanity over vanity. The hero of this new era is the zebra startup. Now, unlike the unicorn that's chasing a mythical billion-dollar valuation, zebras are real. They're focused on being both profitable and sustainable. They build real value from the very beginning, and interestingly, a lot of them are popping up in smaller cities, far away from all the hype. And that brings us to the most important takeaway from this whole great reset. Sanity is better than vanity. Building a real, sustainable business that solves a real problem is so much more valuable than chasing a crazy valuation built on a foundation of sand. So the question this leaves all of us with isn't just what you're building, but how you're building it. Is it going to be a unicorn, or is it going to be a zebra?